So in the past, I've talked about how I feel like sometimes there's just too many games. There's too much to choose from. Now, in the best case, what this means is more options for us the gamers, and that's a great thing. More options means more competition, means better games, because people want their games to sell. At the worst case, though, this type of oversaturation can mean that games that I think are deserving end up going under the radar. And I think Battleborn is one of those games. There's been a lot of talk recently about the surge of hero shooters coming out, games that are combinations of sort of team-based multiplayer titles and MOBAs, with unique characters that have special abilities, weapons, etc. I do feel like Battleborn got a bit lost in the shuffle. It certainly doesn't help its case that Overwatch, a game that many people are comparing this to, had its open beta during the same time that the game launched. There is no question that played a big role into what I feel is like a lukewarm reception to Battleborn. But I think Battleborn is a good game, and I'd like to make a case for it. Not because I'm trying to make you buy the game, do whatever you want with your money, but because I think it's a game that's at least worthy of attention. You should at least know about it and know what it is, so you can decide if it's a game that you like. And that's what I'm gonna do here in this video. I'm gonna try not to draw too many comparisons to Overwatch, because really, they're very different games. In fact, the only real similarity is that we've got characters with unique weapons and abilities. Beyond that, they've got many, many different features and they play very differently. So let's talk about what Battleborn is and what it has. Once more, we're gonna throw it in that category of the hero shooter. But then it also ventures out into the MOBA space in many ways. So we have our special characters. 25 in total at the moment. They're called the Battleborn. And they each fill different roles, with a unique weapon type that they use, as well as unique skills. 2 skills to be exact, plus an ultimate. If you want to be a tank, there are tanks. If you want to heal, there's healers. If you want to be a sniper, if you want to be a support character, if you want to be a CC, a huge variety. Basically what you would expect from a, quote, hero shooter or MOBA. It has all of this stuff. Anything that you could think of, basically, any role that you want to fill will be here. Yes, it's a first-person shooter, no third-person options, unfortunately, which honestly I think might have been a big mistake, because this is a game, especially with so much going on the screen, that would have benefited from third-person options. But anyways, it's a shooter with different roles and different characters. Beyond that, there's a pretty in-depth level of customization through 2 methods. Number 1 is the gear system, which we'll be touching on a little bit later, and number 2 is the helix. So as you level up your character in a match, they'll have access to augmentations for their abilities. For example, on my character Oscar Mike, I can choose my frag grenade to either turn into a burning grenade that leaves a pool of fire on the ground, or to turn into a cluster of grenades that spread off and deal damage in a wide area. Slightly change your character for a different playstyle, for a different feel. And then the gear system further adds on top of that, allowing you to make yourself tankier, or deal more damage, or have better healing, or reduce incoming damage, or reduce crowd control effects on you. Lots and lots of augmentations. So what this means is no 2 characters will be exactly alike, most likely, depending on the gear loadout that you have and what you choose in the helix tree as you level up in a match. Lots and lots of room for individuality in terms of playstyles, I guess is what I would chalk it up to. Now, I don't think it's the most common, but a great example is you could play a sniper character and build him completely tanky with your gear. I don't know if that's gonna happen a lot, but you could do it if you wanted to, if that's a playstyle that you think works and fits how you like to play, have at it. That's an option. Lots of options to be a unique snowflake, if you will, in this game. This game has a few multiplayer game modes. There's 3 to be exact. A capture mode, which is basically just point capture. Meltdown, which has you pushing creep into an enemy incinerator to get points. And then lastly, incursion, which is basically the most MOBA-like. There's wave of creeps on both sides, pushing towards enemy sentries, which act as towers or bases. Actually, both of them combined. They're base towers. 2 sentries for each team. Once you destroy the second biggest sentry, your team wins the game. Beyond those 3 multiplayer modes, though, this game also has a campaign, which really separates it from the slew of multiplayer shooters that we've been seeing nowadays that are just multiplayer. So the campaign is 8 missions, I believe. They're divided into multiple difficulties. And you can also do it single player or co-op. Like I myself have gone through half of them just by myself, kind of following along the story, enjoying the comedy, which is also something this game really has a lot of. It's from the developer of the Borderlands series, and they have carried a lot of that comical influence and character design into this game as well. In fact, there is legitimately Tiny Tina basically in this game, a character voiced by her that's very similar in stature and personality. It's pretty humorous, actually. So if you like Borderlands humor, and even just visually, the inspiration is clear. It's here. Having a campaign really sets this game apart. Now, it is relatively short. There's 8 campaign missions. In my experience, each of them have taken between 30 minutes and an hour or so. So you might say, well, that's not very long, but these are meant to be replayed. And that's gonna tie back into the gear system. So as I mentioned earlier, you have gear that can augment your playstyle when you play. So how does the gear system work? The gear fills different roles. Well, you can increase your health, regeneration, get more shields, faster attack speed, do more damage with your skills or your basic attacks, increase your healing, decrease crowd control, etc., etc. You collect the gear through a couple of means. Number one is through the story mode. So the story mode is meant to be replayed. Multiple difficulties, with the higher difficulties giving you access to better gear that will just drop while you're playing through the mission. And then it'll also come in the form of rewards. Gear is also accumulated through packs which can be purchased. Now, don't freak out. There is no out-of-game currency. This is an in-game currency only. The idea of it even existing is because this is a form of progression, which this game has a lot of various means of progression. One of them is just accumulating gear. As you play the game, you'll get a currency which is used to purchase packs, which will give you access to a random assortment of gear. So you take that gear that you get from story mode or packs, and it gets put into a total collection, what we'll call your stash. From all of that gear that you have, you select 3 items to put into a loadout. And what you'll essentially do is build loadouts for either different characters or different playstyles. So I've got a loadout to make me tankier, or a loadout to make me deal more damage, as an example. So all this gear that you're picking up, either from going through the campaign missions by yourself or with friends on higher difficulties, or doing it in hardcore mode, or just by playing and purchasing packs, and then taking all this gear with these random stats and attributes and values, and having the best ones and putting them into loadouts, adding sort of a uniqueness to your character and a customization for your own playstyle. Beyond that, there's also a bunch of additional progression. There's account progression and character progression. As you play and level up a particular character, he gets higher level, you'll gain access to new taunts, you'll get additional modifications for your helix. So that system that I talked about, where as you level up in a match, you can choose alterations to your skills. The more you play a character, the more options you get in that helix. And then also account progression gives you access to new characters, gives you access to additional gear. You can unlock additional skins and taunts for the specific characters. A lot of different methods: character progression, account progression, gear acquisition. Essentially bars to fill, things to do. And one of the big complaints I've seen about a lot of multiplayer games nowadays is there isn't enough motivation beyond playing. And that might sound silly to some people, but having an additional factor to kind of keep you into the game is something a lot of people want. Well, this game certainly has that. Many, many, many forms of progression. I've played for about 20 hours now, pretty much exclusively with friends, and I've really enjoyed it. It's been a great time. This game still has some problems, though. It's not perfect. No game is. Screen clutter is one of the primary issues I see people bring up when they first see this game. They're like, there's so much, I have no idea, I have no clue what's going on, there's too much going on. And that's a real complaint. When I first started playing, I felt the same way. As time goes on and I understand all the characters and the different skills, you parse it all out a little bit better, and you have a better time of figuring out what's happening. But even with that said, 20 hours in, I still get turned around sometimes. Like, there's a lot happening. Now, I've heard that they're going to be putting in options in the future to reduce screen clutter. I'll be interested to see how that ends up working out. I think another big problem is the price tag. And we talk about this a lot, and I don't want to sound like someone who doesn't want to pay $60 for games or thinks games shouldn't cost $60. No, I'm fine with it. I get it. It costs money to develop games. They need to get their money back. Studios close. That's a real thing. Making video games isn't a surefire bet to make money. In fact, from everything I've heard, it's actually not the greatest industry if money is your primary concern. But anyway, the price tag is going to be something that puts a lot of people off. It's $60. There's a lot of free-to-play games out there that people would rather play. Heck, I just had this argument. I get it. I understand. People don't want to pay $60 when there's so many free-to-play or cheaper options. But I think Battleborn is bringing enough to the table to maybe warrant that $60 purchase, depending on who you are and whether or not you want to spend that money. I don't think it would hurt, though, if they drop their price down to, say, $40 or $30. So maybe wait for a Steam sale or something before you pick this game. Or maybe the game will just drop in price inevitably. I think the third biggest problem with Battleborn, honestly, has been the timing. Boy, oh boy, that timing. Releasing at the same time as the Overwatch Open Beta, which some would say that was nefarious on Blizzard's part, but hey man, they're looking out for numero uno. That's what everyone does, right? It's unfortunate for them, because a lot of people compare this game to Overwatch, even though, as hopefully I've showed you here, this game is very different. It is very much so not Overwatch. It's its own thing. It's doing its own, beyond having hero characters, if you will, it's nothing like Overwatch. And in many ways, I think it's better. In many ways, I like playing this game more. There's more progression, there's more customization, there's more modes, there's more to do with the single player campaign, the multiple different gameplay modes, one of them which is essentially a MOBA. This game has a lot going for it, even with those problems of screen clutter, the price tag, and its timing. Anyway, guys, that is going to do it for this video here. I think I've covered everything I wanted to. I wanted to talk with you about the game, tell you what it was, and maybe help you make a decision as to, hey, maybe I overlooked this game, and maybe it's something that I would like. And with that, guys, we'll wrap up today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Please be sure, as always, to leave your comments and thoughts in the discussion box thingy below. Thank you guys, as always, so much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.